Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about experimentation, and then you turn you loose doing some experimentation. And I have a couple of purposes for this. One is simply to find out how your own brain works. And one is to convince you of things. That when people explore submodalities, often, particularly for the first time, they go, oh, well, I probably just made it up. Well, I don't know if I have pictures up there, down here, or so on. And it's not very convincing. But then when they try moving them, they typically realize, ooh, there's something real about this. Because, for instance, if you're like Anne's was up over here, and if you just imagine now taking that image that's up over there and moving it down over here, what happens? It fades into insignificance. See, there's something about that location for her that's very important. And location and submodalities and whether you do it simultaneous or sequential and so on, all of these things are elements that are very unique to each individual. I don't know any rules whatsoever, except typically if it's a bright picture, then that will gain more attention if it's colored and so on. But in terms of location, some people have a preferred location over here, and some up here, and some here, and some behind, and so on, and I don't know any rules for that. It's probably how you learn to do it first. And, you know, your parents aren't hip enough to say, well, look, if you want to think about yourself, do it in the following way, or try this out and this out and find out which way works best for you. So most of us got our self-concept pretty much by accident. Just like we got our strategies and all the other things that we do, we get them pretty much by accident because we're not taught explicitly by parents or school and so on exactly how to do this. Sort of like if you had to make up mathematics from scratch and nobody ever taught you mathematics and you just kind of cobbled something together, it probably wouldn't work as well as mathematics that people have developed over a period of years. So partly I just want to convince you that there's some reality to this. And the other thing is to start making your self-concept even stronger. I asked you to start with something that you were sure about yourself and that you liked. And now I want to see if we can make it even more sure. What happens if you add in some extra images or extra voices or extra something? What happens if you make some changes? You'll find that many of them don't work at all. Like Anne says, you know, well, it made it insignificant. It fades into insignificance. So we don't want to do that. Move it back up there and then try something else. What if, for instance, up in that picture up there, we said to Anne, well, here's where you like to see that picture, up left, like this. Up, on your right. I'm sorry. Yes, on your right. Excuse me. Thank you. You're behind the paper, right. I'm looking at you here. Here's your nose. Okay, something like that. Now, what if we said, what would it be like if you imagined seeing other images behind that they're just ready to pop in? These are the next ones. They're going to come in order like this, like a deck of cards. And you can see the edges just glowing a little bit, or maybe they're a special color of brown or purple or something like that. So that when you see this one and you can enjoy this one and get the full excitement of this one, at the same time, you know there's a whole bunch of others back here.
Actually, I tried that at lunchtime, and what happened was I got this, it was like behind that right one, I had an array going out on both sides of all the other examples.
Great. On both sides. So you had
this one didn't quite work, but it sort of automatically went into a V shape.
Okay.
Behind
so it meant so that like if so if I were looking down on it, here's the one you're looking at like this, and then the others are going out like that.
I can see them all.
Wonderful. However you can do it. You see, this is playtime now. This is experimentation time, and exactly that kind of thing is exactly what I want you to try. Now I want to offer you a couple of generalizations. Location is very idiosyncratic. I don't know any rules for that one. Number of examples. Typically, the more examples, the better, as long as something else doesn't change. See, here, she found a way to add in other examples so she can see the edges here, going out on both sides, and she still has the benefit of seeing one big, bright image. Great. Well, that's wonderful. And I encourage you unconscious minds to participate fully in this, because I'm speaking to you as well. This is all unconscious stuff, typically. So I'm really asking your conscious mind to participate in an unconscious way, and whatever. Freud's goal was to make the unconscious conscious. My goal is to make the conscious unconscious. Seriously. When you're operating well, when you're doing anything really skillfully, you're doing it unconsciously. When you're speaking in your native language, you don't decide exactly which words you're going to use typically. You just start talking, and the words come out. Anything you do well, it's unconscious. You may have a consciousness that's kind of along for the ride and is noticing what's going on in case something goes haywire. But when you're really functioning well, when you're driving a car well, are you conscious? You're thinking about the party you're going to tonight or something else that's happening. You're just driving, doing it essentially unconsciously. And the function of consciousness, as I understand it, is to pause for a moment when things aren't going well. How can I reorganize things? How can I change my pictures or something, or think about something in a different way so that it can be unconscious and automatic again? Think how tedious it would be if every time you opened a door you had to think, now let's see, doorknob. How does a doorknob work? And did the whole thing consciously? You go crazy. You get nothing done. You just walk up to the door, your hand reaches out. Somebody reaches out their hand to shake hands with you. Do you think about it or not? Or your hand goes up and you shake hands, or whatever other kind of greeting you do. So this is what I want you to experiment with. Other things being equal, the number of examples, the more you have, the more solid it will be. As long as you know something else doesn't change. The more modalities you have, the better. Why? It gives you more information. It gives you not only, what if you just had images and you weren't able to step into them, you weren't able to hear the sounds? You'd have a very sketchy idea about whatever kindness is or tenacity or anything like that. By having images that have full sensory experience and you can step into them, that's what makes them real. That's what makes them, and the reality is what gives you that sense of, yes, I really am that kind of person. That solid feeling of reality. And of course, submodalities. I think I mentioned the other night, but some of you might not have been here. Submodalities do two things simultaneously. One is they draw your attention to information. It's big and bright and colorful. Oh, you notice. It's like a billboard, right? Or that stuff on TV where they're always flashing stuff at you and moving things around and captures you. I'm particularly susceptible because I don't watch TV. And when I walk into a room where somebody's got a TV on, it's like I'm being attacked by this vortex. And it's sucking my brain, toward it. Because I can't ignore it. I'm just going, wow, look at that, So one thing about submodalities is it draws your attention. Big, bright, colorful, moving, etc. The other thing is that it gives you more information. When a picture is big, you can see more. You can see more detail. You can see things closer. In a big picture, you can see more than a small picture. And so it also provides information. So the richer the submodalities are in general, the more robust your sense of yourself will be. And we're picking just one aspect of yourself just to show you how these things work. And then you can then apply that to any other aspect of yourself, because you have many, many aspects. We're just taking one little piece. But what's called your self-concept is really made up of many, many, many different qualities. So what I want you to do is experiment. This is exercise 4.2. Play with changing submodalities you use, making the pictures or sounds more or less intense, brighter. What happens if you take, most of us are sort of inculcated into square photographs, right? Well, what if you made them round? Does that make them better or worse? What if you made them triangular? How about a pentagon or hexagon? Just play with stuff and find out, is there any way you could juice this up even more? This is what I call tuning up your template. We're starting out with something that's true of you and you like. How can we make it better? How can we make it even stronger? And use as your gauge that sense of solidity. You have a start, you know how you started out with whatever you discovered. Now can you make that stronger in any way? Because this is how to really make your self-concept work well. And then we'll do some other things as well pretty soon. But for now, just use this little list of number, location, simultaneous, sequential. See if you can find some way to blend the two, because they're both valuable in different ways. If you can find some way to integrate the two. Here's one example. I gave the other example of the magnifying glass that goes across a grid of a collage, and then one can get big. It's another way of integrating the two. And find out what works for you to make yourself sense of yourself in this quality even stronger. And this time, I want you to do the following. I want you to get in trios this time. And let's say the three of us were in the trio. We just sit down, and if we haven't introduced each other, we just trade names. And then we each go inside and close our eyes and start playing. And take about 5 minutes to just do it internally. And then come back and then share experiences. Oh, gosh, when I tried this, this happened. This didn't work at all. This worked a little bit. This was really dynamite, whatever happens in there. And just share experiences so you get a little more of a database. Now, see, I'm building a database for you of how you can change your self-concept. So I'm doing what we're talking about at the same time. Okay? I'll see you in, let's say, 15 minutes.